Good afternoon. I'm Jackie Blackbird, and I serve as the Indigenous Communities Officer at Newman's Own Foundation. I'd like to welcome you to the 2026 Food Justice for Kids informational webinar. We are happy that you're here and excited to share information with you today and answer any questions you may have. So this is the agenda that we have today. The majority of the agenda you see here. We're doing the housekeeping. We're going to talk about the Food Justice for Kids Prize, and we're going to have a couple amazing speakers speak to their work that they have done over the last couple of years for the Food Justice for Kids Prize from 2024. A little bit of housekeeping. Today's webinar will last 1 hour. The content-based piece of it will be for 35 minutes, and we really thought it was important to offer as much time for question and answer. So we have 25 minutes set aside for that. But please feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation, as we will have our teammates answering questions throughout. So feel free to ask away in the question and answer section of this webinar. And we will be recording the webinar and sharing the webinar recording as well as the PowerPoint next week.
All right, over to me. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Jackie, for that warm welcome. My name is Emily, and I lead the programs and partnerships for Newman's Own Foundation. And it is my distinct honor to get to celebrate this collaboration of funders who have come together to support this prize. I want to give a shout out to our partners at Humanitix, a ticketing platform that dedicates 100% of profits to charity. We're also joined by the Henry P. Kendall Foundation today. They aim to foster a resilient and healthy food system in New England. And the Hunger to Health Collaboratory, H2HC. They work hard to uplift innovative food and nutrition work that advances health equity. And at Newman's Own Foundation, our mission is to nourish and transform the lives of children who face adversity. And we're following the legacy of Paul Newman and also providing 100% of our profits and royalties from the sale of Newman's Own products in service of this mission and this prize today. Each partner brings a depth of experience and innovative ideas that informed this iteration of Food Justice for Kids Prize, and hopefully together we'll help grow the next generation of food citizens with your help and great projects. Next slide. So why Food Justice for Kids? If this is your first time with us as any of the co-funders or with Food Justice for Kids Prize, we just want to reinforce some of the concepts about why we're coming together to support food justice for kids. Together, we seek to amplify resources, reach, and results, really in order to drive lasting and sustainable change through your work, your ideas, and your vision for what children can access and learn about when it comes to nutritious, healthy, and culturally relevant food, both in schools and communities. So with that, I want to turn it back over to Jackie.
Thanks, Emily. So the Food Justice for Kids Prize has two focus areas that you'll see here on the slide: Indigenous food justice and nutrition education in school food. We'll talk a little bit more about those in a slide that's coming up, but I just wanted to provide a brief overview. The Food Justice for Kids Prize recipients will receive up to $100,000 each year over the span of 2 years. So $50,000 in 2026, and the opportunity to apply for an additional $50,000 in the fall of 2027. As you see here, nonprofits, tribes, schools, and school districts working to advance food justice for kids under 18 in the U.S. and its territories are eligible to apply. In addition to this grant, Food Justice for Kids Prize Grant recipients will attend the Hunger to Health Collaboratory 2026 Fall Summit in Washington, D.C., with travel and lodging expenses covered. So not only will you have that opportunity, but you will also be able to participate in Newman's Own Foundation's virtual learning sessions and build relationships with other grantee partners throughout the calendar year. You'll see here in this slide the breakdown for the $1.4 million in grant funding over the span of 2 years. For this grant cycle, 14 grantees will be selected. One application for each organization will be accepted. So we have Newman's Own and Humanitix will have 5 nutrition ed and school food grants and 5 Indigenous food justice grants. With the Henry P. Kendall Foundation, they will be awarding 2 New England region focused grants in the food justice for kids space. And then with the Hunger to Health Collaboratory, we will be awarding 2 nutrition ed school food policy related grants in the state and state and national areas. So for more information, please feel free. You can always visit our foodjusticeforkids.org page. I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk a little bit more about the focus areas. So you'll see here on this slide, projects and policy work supporting kids learning, growing, cooking healthy and culturally relevant foods in these 2 focus areas. For Indigenous food justice, just to define Indigenous, we are defining that for this grant process would be the American Indian tribes within the United States and its territories for that program focus area. And then nutrition education and school food, as you may see here, there's some additional information on this slide around eating nutritious and healthy and culturally relevant food. This year, you may have noticed that we also have a nomination component of the Food Justice for Kids Prize. This is a way for community members or even members of your organization to shine a light on the great work that's being done in communities. So nominations are not required. You can just go to the Just Fund webpage to apply for a grant. You would search for the Food Justice for Kids Prize. But it's great to hear from those in the community that think you're doing great work. Back to you, Emily.
Thanks, Jackie. All right, now you get to hear from 2 amazing leaders who are Food Justice for Kids Prize recipients from the first cohort, 2024. Our first guest speaker is going to share a little bit about their experience is Nicole with Black Girls Cook, if you want to come on camera. And they are a nonprofit helping young girls embrace the farm to table concept while also learning about Black diaspora history. Nicole, take it away.
Thank you, Emily. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicole Mooney. I am the founder of Black Girls Cook. We launched a program back in March of 2014. So next month, we will be celebrating 12 years. As Emily mentioned, we were one of the recipients for the first cohort. And I just want to give you an overview of how much the Newman's Own Foundation grant really impacted our organization. In general, our organization teaches girls historically between the ages of 8 through 15 the meaning of farm to table, and we do so by operating hands-on cooking classes, edible gardening. We also have a STEM program centered around using items in the kitchen to make beauty and skincare products, as well as last year launching a new program called Storybook Cooks, which is a program now for girls between the ages of 5 and 7 to not only understand the basics of cooking, but also increase their reading and literacy skills. And with this grant, we were able to launch that program as well. On your screen right here, you see a snapshot of a few of the things that we have done with the grant. Currently, we have programming operating in both Baltimore City and in Miami. And thanks to this grant, we were able to host our first Saturday cooking cohort last year in Miami, which was amazing because, like many of you know, if you're starting something in a different territory or a different city, it's basically like starting from scratch. So we were initially partnering with anchor institutions to grow the program in Miami. But as you know, if you're trying to get grant dollars, it's like chicken before the egg. They want to see the proof, but we didn't have the proof because we didn't have the infrastructure set up in Miami. But thanks to this grant, we were able to not only launch our standalone Saturday cooking program last year, which you can see in the bottom right-hand corner and the bottom left-hand corner. And then you'll see some photos at the bottom of the younger girls That's our Storybook Cooks program. And then in Baltimore, we were also able to expand the number of cohorts that we have because in the perfect world, we would have access to all of the money and be able to do programming every chance we could. But because of this grant, we were able to be more consistent with programming. And then we were also able to launch a program for girls who age out of our program that want to continue working in culinary. So we have started a training program for the girls who are 16 and up to teach them the fundamentals of culinary. And they have come back and taught the younger girls in the program as well. Um, Another great thing about this partnership with Newman's Own, at the top middle picture, you'll see a snapshot of an article that was written about us in the Miami Times because of us receiving the grant. So not only were we able to impact the lives of girls through culinary with a heavy emphasis on Black diaspora cooking, we also received some media recognition, which has really told more people about our organization, which has definitely helped us increase the enrollment from each cohort. So overall, this program has been amazing for us. I want to take the time to thank the entire Newman's Own Foundation team because, like many of you know, in a time where history is basically being erased in front of our eyes and funding has really shifted, it's very refreshing to know that our organization is still out there amplifying our voices and allowing us to impact the lives of our girls through Black diaspora cooking and history. Thank you for this opportunity and good luck to all of you who will be applying for this grant. It's an amazing opportunity.
Thanks, Nicole. Oh,
My
let me go
pleasure.
camera. Fantastic. And definitely check out their webpage if you're interested in learning more. All right, our second and final guest speaker is going to share a little bit about their experience. Josh, if you want to do us a favor and come on to camera. Josh is with Partnership with Native Americans, and they're a nonprofit organization that works with tribal communities to improve the quality of life for Native Americans living on reservations. And we're excited for Josh to share a little bit about their food justice for kids work.
Thank you. Bonjour, Iguyen, Shigabanish Nabadejnos Win, Joshua Arce, Dejnakas, Che Guax, Damnia Was, Godani Budwan Minadao. Hello, everyone. I want to say thank you for allowing us this space to share what we've done through this grant. Again, Shigigaba is my Indian name. It means bad thunder. I'm Thunder Clan, and I am Potawatomi. Um, three things that we really try to focus on with this grant was the food access component, but also setting our communities up to succeed and exploring alternative career pathways were some of the other areas that really opened up avenues for young people to learn. Next slide. So a little bit about our organization. PWNA is a 501c3. We're a Native-led, Native-serving organization. We have warehouses and distribution centers in Rapid City, South Dakota, and Phoenix, Arizona. And from those two warehouses, we have about a 9-state footprint, 4 in the Northern Plains, 5 in the Southwest. And we've been in the business for 35 years now. And so we have a both deep and wide impact to the communities that we connect with and the communities we serve. Two of our pillars are serving immediate needs and supporting long-term solutions. Those are two arms of our work that we're very dedicated to. We do have 6 pillars of work that work under the PWNA umbrella. So health, education, food and water access, emergency services, holiday support, and animal welfare programs. But this has been a real natural fit for us in the education and food and water and intersectionality of our programming. And so, again, we're just really honored to be able to share this space and have the opportunity to work with Newman's Own Foundation to bring some of these projects to fruition. Next slide. So this kind of gives an idea about our impact and where we have these programs that are currently in place and ongoing. And so the primary focus was to add drip irrigation greenhouses. And so we have up to 14 of these greenhouses and garden projects funded in 11 different communities with 8 different project partners. So our project partners are everything from they can be elder nutrition centers, youth education centers, they are survivor centers. And so we create through these partnerships opportunities for young people to collaborate in the space and to bring the food sovereignty initiatives that have been ongoing in tribal communities and really develop them, help them create business models or sustainability plans. And those are the types of activities that we've engaged in. As you can see, we have them throughout the United States, both in the Southwest and Northern Plains, and just a wide variety of places that we work. And some of the work has been ongoing. I think what the previous speaker talked about was timing, and timing is key. I think that when you have these opportunities in place and partnering with communities, you have to be respectful of things that are taking place in the communities and some of the challenges that are present as well. So being able to pivot with the community, trusting the community to find the right solution, and being able to work hand in hand with the community to come up with a viable project that can be delivered. Because there are just challenges that are beyond our control, not just with weather, but sometimes there's culturally related events that we have to be mindful of. Next slide, please. So one of the stories or takeaways that we did want to share, a success story, was the program with a day at a time, the Day at a Time Club out of Fort Defiance. Their Indigenous Food Sovereignty program, the project was to do that community scan and assessment. And so part of these scans and assessments are leadership cohorts that get developed in the community. And when we did that scan and assessment, they realized that they needed assistance with building that greenhouse and structure. And so they were able to partner with the local high school, which is Window Rock High School, in order to come up with that support and blueprinting of the greenhouse, and really framework that out and have it framed up so that way it gets ready to install right away. And so, empowering local resources and local individuals, these students then start to realize that, even if they don't go into a food sovereignty program, they see other career pathways. So they see some architect and engineer opportunities. They see irrigation opportunities. They see grant writing and grant management opportunities. So all of these things really help to open students' eyes to what possibilities are out there. And it isn't just focused on one initiative, but at the end of the day, when they are able to come together and cook delicious foods together with part of that food reclamation and food sovereignty initiatives, everybody is happy. Everybody can celebrate those wins, and they go home fed, and in multiple different ways. And so I do appreciate the opportunity to share. You can go to the last slide, and being able to partner with Newman's Own Foundation. And I think I echo the sentiment that this really helps amplify the story and the work that's taken place in community, because with everything and all the noise that is out there, having these positive stories and community impact right literally at the grassroots level is really powerful. And so being able to have those stories echoed throughout the different ecosystems and shared widely, it really does us a lot of good to make sure that we maintain visibility and we're maintaining a presence in the discussion. So thank you for everything that you've offered to us, and good luck to those applying in the future.
Thank you, Emily, for introducing our guests, and thank you to Nicole and Josh for being with us today and sharing about the good work that you do within the organizations. So just wanted to take a moment to share these high-level dates for the Food Justice for Kids Prize. Please take note that the deadline for all grant applications in Just Fund is April 28th at 1:00 p.m. You can also find these key dates on our website. So feel free if you ever wanted to reference them that they will be there. So for now, excuse me, I will pass it on to Rachel to share about Just Fund.
Thanks, Jackie. I'm Rachel Agolia. I'm the grants manager at Newman's Own Foundation. And as Jackie said, I'm just going to give a quick overview of applying to the prize through the Just Fund platform. If you're new to Just Fund, the first step is to create an organization account in the platform, which you see on the side of the slide here. Registering is very quick and easy, and once your organization account is created, you'll be walked through steps of building out what Just Fund calls its organization common application profile. This common application profile becomes a part of your Food Justice for Kids Prize application, and it also then can be reused again and again to apply for other funding opportunities posted within Just Fund that you're interested in. It functions much like the common application works when applying for colleges or universities. If your organization has used Just Fund before, you'll simply be just logging into your existing organization, and then you'll have an opportunity to look at your existing organization profile and modify and update that as you see fit. The Food Justice for Kids Prize application will consist of just 3 additional questions and 2 attachments that you'll be prompted to upload. The 2 attachments are a project budget and a SMARTIE goal worksheet, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. And we all know it's human nature to wait until the last minute to apply to a thing, but we strongly encourage you to register your organization in Just Fund well in advance of the application deadline, just to be sure that you have sufficient time to build out the organization profile in the way that you want, and that you have time to complete these 3 application questions. You could even start right now. It takes just a second to create your organization account and to get going. If at any point in the process you need technical assistance, Just Fund has an applicant knowledge base on their website, and they also host support webinars twice a month. And if you have any questions that aren't addressed either through their knowledge base or one of the webinars, if you're able to attend, you can also contact their support team via email, and the email address is info@justfund.us. Their staff are generally available during business hours, Monday through Friday. I believe they're on Pacific time, but in general, they typically respond to inquiries in the order that they're received, and definitely within the 24-hour period. But this is just another reason we reiterate, get started early. That way, if you do run into any technical issues, you give yourself time to get those resolved before the application deadline. And I think we're set. I will pass it on to Christina.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christina Chauvenet. I'm the Child Nutrition Officer here at Newman's Own Foundation. Thank you all so much for joining us. We're really excited to see so many folks on this call. Know that you all are doing really exciting work achieving food justice for kids. So I'm going to talk about one of those attachments that we are requesting in the application, and that is the SMARTIE goals. Some of you may be familiar with SMART goals. We're the gold standard in the field for a long time. And there's a couple of different iterations on these acronyms. So just sharing them here: strategic, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, inclusive, and equitable. The SMART goals, the I and the E, have been added in more recently to really get at how the goals are specifically addressing inclusion and equity and advancing health equity through these goals. So what you're going to do, if you haven't written SMART or SMARTIE goals before, have no fear. We have lots of resources for you, both in the application and in some links that we have there. So you're going to use the template that is available on the Just Fund page. Write 2 to 3 goals for your project. Those are likely going to be different dimensions of goals for the grant period, knowing that you're often working on multiple aspects of a strategy at one time. You're going to include a brief statement, 1 to 3 sentences, that includes those elements. And then you're going to submit those as a PDF as part of the Just Fund application. Again, all those materials are available on Just Fund. And I'm just going to share with you some tips for completing SMARTIE goals. I'm sharing these both as the officer that leads our evaluation work here at Newman's Own Foundation and as somebody who has created and led SMARTIE goal work in other organizations. So first, we've linked to resources from the Management Center on our website. And so we encourage you to look at those. There's lots of other materials available online, and certainly you're welcome to peruse those materials as you like, but just know that the Management Center is the reference point that we are using. They have great worksheets. They have example SMARTIE goals, lots of tools in there. So I really encourage you to utilize those resources. Another note that these goals can be relevant whether you're a national organization working on policy change, for example, or whether you're a grassroots organization working on direct service. So they are not limited to one level of the ecosystem or not. It's really an opportunity for you to get specific about what it is that you are planning to do in this grant period. We encourage you to balance realistic and ambitious goals. So, for example, in this grant time period, we know it's not going to be realistic to increase fruit and vegetable consumption by 200%. That's not going to happen in this time period. Encourage you to have something there that is moving the needle. Maybe you want to push to increase fruit and vegetables, but that is also going to be achievable. And that leads to the next one of the other bullets on here, which is you will be, if you are selected for this prize, you will be reporting back on these SMARTIE goals. So again, encourage you to create something that is both is balancing that ambition, but also is realistic for your organization so that you can set yourself up for success. It's really an opportunity for us to understand what are those key performance indicators that you are tracking over this period. And it also gives you an opportunity. It can really act as a planning document for you to think through what are the things that you need in place to help move this work forward. Just a note that the quality rather than the quantity of goals will be evaluated. Same goes for the length of the goals. So whether you have 2 goals, 3 goals, that's not a factor. We're really looking at the quality of the goals. Does that match with what you've set in other areas of the application? Do you have the implementation tools to do that? And have you set some ambitious and realistic goals? We do realize that the time period for your individual goals may be different. There might be one goal that you have that spans, for example, you're doing a summer program and you've got a goal that is to recruit summer participants, and that's going to be from March to May, and then you've got a goal that's going to span in the summer. So they don't all have to be exactly the same 12-month time period as long as they are within that grant period. You can also share with us goals that may not fit exactly in that time period, but are reflective of the wider arc. You can share those as context in this SMARTIE goal document as well. And another thing that I know that is on folks' minds is how these applications are going to be evaluated. So we have 5 criteria that will evaluate these applications on. They are all evaluated of equal weight. So you can see those there. Starting from the top, alignment, we're really looking at to what extent the organization or project aligns with that priority program area, Indigenous food justice or nutrition education and school food. Evidence of impact, that's the extent to which you have demonstratable evidence of past impact or potential future impact related to your priority program area. The innovation of your approach and how your organization offers a new solution or approach that can improve the status quo for food justice for kids. Community power, how is your organization working with and building power with the communities that it seeks to serve? Again, that's relevant whether you're at the national level all the way down to the grassroots level. And then the ease of implementation. To what extent do you have a realistic plan with those clearly defined objectives and the team in place to achieve those goals? Again, all of that will be weighted equally on a scale of 0 to 20 for each of those criteria. They will be evaluated by Newman's Own Foundation staff, our partner funders, as well as external evaluators with expertise in the program area. Over to you.
All right, thanks, Christina. A lot of great information that we hope you'll find helpful. We're going to shift now into Q&A, and hopefully you've seen the team, along with some of our co-funders, are furiously trying to respond to as many as possible, and we've queued up a few to respond live. So if I could have Jackie, you come back on camera, and Christina, thank you for being there, and I'll call up some other folks as we go. Again, reminder, we do have a great FAQs page that we've tried to proactively address a lot of the questions we know are top of mind for you. So be sure to check that out. And if you still don't see an answer, by all means, we encourage you to post it in the Q&A box, and then we'll go through as many as we can. All right, so let's get rolling here. Christina, since you are on camera and I see you right there, do you mind addressing? I'm just going to start at the top and we'll work our way down. There were some questions, I'm going to bundle them for you, related to nutrition education and school food. Oh, thank you. Yes, I will start my video. There we go. It happens. Hello again, everybody. So we're going to talk a little bit about nutrition, education, and school food. One of the good, I think, umbrella questions was trying to distinguish a little bit of that subject area and dissect it as it relates to policy in nutrition ed and school food. You have that carve out in terms of grants. Could you talk a little bit about how the prize is navigating that? And then I see Nicolene, so we can add in Nicolene as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Emily. And we are so grateful for your questions coming in. As Emily mentioned, we're trying to tie some of the themes across these questions because several asked similar questions. So just to ask specifically related to, I've seen that there's some around nutrition education, school food. Does it have to be nutrition education in schools? How can that come together? So it can be nutrition education that is in a community setting, not in school. It can be related to school food that is related more to access to school food, or it could be nutrition education in schools. Any of those, as long as they are addressing one of those dimensions, is eligible. And again, there's not a prioritization of those strategies. So we're really looking at the quality of idea rather than the exact setting, as long as you're meeting those overall criteria. As it relates to nutrition education and school food, the policy grants versus the other grants relating to nutrition education and school food, all certainly welcome Nicolene to comment here, but I would note we will consider policy applications in both portfolios, Indigenous food justice and nutrition education and school food. The policy applications are not limited to those two that we mentioned, but will be at least two. So again, looking at that quality of idea evaluation. Nicolene, anything that you wanted to add there?
Thank you, Christina. Not particularly. I think that, I mean, it's clear to me. So I'm happy to answer questions, but don't have anything special to add. Thank you.
And just one other note that I'm seeing in the chat was a question around the definition of access to school food, and a couple of questions about whether, if there was a project that was looking at access without a direct service component, would that be eligible? So when we think of access to school food, what we mean is opportunities to expand participation in school food. And that could be through a variety of dimensions. That could be increasing the quality of school meals and working with schools and nutrition professionals to increase those qualities, to incentivize participation. That could be working in coalition to advance a healthy school meals for all type activity. Those are all eligible. It does not have to be direct service component to be eligible.
Great, thank you all. I'm just going to underscore here because there have been a couple questions in here. The policy grants that H2HC, Hunger to Health Collaborative with Nicolene's group, that does not preclude, right? So please don't think, oh, they're only possibly going to award 2 policies. So, out of 14, the odds are not necessarily in my favor. That is not the case at all, right? So of the 14 total awards, policy, who knows, right? Policy could be an element in all 14, but we just want to reassure you, at least 2 will have a state and national level focus on policy. And then I'm going to just tee up Andy from Kendall Foundation, who we're so lucky to have. So I'm going to tee you up. I'm going to go to another question in a second. But I think this is a great opportunity for the next question to get your thoughts on the New England lens that you're bringing to this, similar to the policy lens that we just talked about with H2HC. So stay tuned. So Jackie, there were a bunch of questions. I would love to get your thoughts and add some color to the budget. We got a couple of great questions around, is there a limit? Is there a cap or a ceiling to the budget? Can I blend my money? Can I bring in other funding to this? And what about indirect costs?
Mhm.
So do you mind, we have some of those in the FAQs if you want to reference that. You could add color.
Yep, sure. Emily, I can take that one. So, grants that are awarded with the Food Justice for Kids Prize are what we call flexible funding and may be used towards operating expenses, including staff salaries, provided that the funds are in alignment with your grant application and directly related to the programming supported by the Food Justice for Kids Prize. There is no limit if your organization is a 501c3 or other eligible entity, and we have a list of those in our FAQs as well. With the exception of like fees charged by, say, a fiscal sponsor. I know someone had asked if a nonprofit could work with the tribe, and the answer to that I posted in the Q&A box is yes. We've actually had a couple of grantee partners work with fiscal sponsors who are nonprofits. If fees are charged, in that case, the limit is 15% of the total grant amount.
All right, thanks, Jackie. Hopefully that helps, but if not, please feel free to enter some more questions in the Q&A. And Andy, if you don't mind coming off mute and sharing with us just a little bit of the framing and perspective you're bringing to the Food Justice for Kids Prize through the New England lens.
Yes, thank you, Emily, and to everyone on the Newman's Own Foundation team. We are honored to be partners with you in this program. And for 15 years, we've been focused on New England students and New England schools. And we see students and schools as perhaps one of the most powerful levers for change in the food system to create a healthier, more resilient food system for everyone. Thinking about children and students and their families and their schools as those drivers for change. The way to think about our lens with regard to this program, really want to keep it simple. We really only are our focus is New England, the organizations, the schools, the students in New England. But there's so much overlapping interest with the Newman's Own Foundation and the Food Justice for Kids Prize program that the criteria and the rubric and the evaluation and the scoring is really driven by that program and not by us. And so, should there be applicants that emerge in this process who are operating in New England, then we are really excited to support that with this prize and with our commitment there.
Fantastic. And we'll also make sure to drop the links for all of our partners on the FAQs as well, because it may be interesting and helpful to learn more about and go deeper into the work that you all are doing. All right, let's go back to some of the questions. I'd love, Christina, if I could tee you up.
Sure.
I am seeing some themes here emerging around food in terms of nutrition, education, and school food, that category. And then within that, there are some more specific, deeper dives on a couple concepts that I'd love to get your thoughts on. One is around food waste, which I think is a really interesting concept if we could talk more in the context of the prize. And then I see another one here around, let's see here, farmers markets specific to child nutrition programs. Would they be eligible, or is it only with schools and in the context of school meals? So I think maybe those are two adjacent ones if you could.
Yes, thanks, Emily. And I saw a couple of other questions trickling in about food access and how that relates to other elements here. So what I would say firstly, for example, relating to food waste, and the question I would encourage folks to think about when they're thinking about whether their program is eligible in the nutrition education and school food lens is if you are working within a school food context, then yes, it is eligible. Again, refer you to the criteria on our website, but in general, that those projects are eligible. When you're looking at nutrition education and you're wondering, is this project that maybe incorporates access into the project area, is that relevant? The question I would encourage you to ask is, does it include an education component? So, for example, food waste, that is an education program that again, look at that definition of food justice that Jackie shared at the beginning, certainly falls within that realm. You're not going to be able to address every single element of food justice in a single project. So that's certainly one that would be eligible. If access can certainly be part of a project as long as it is paired with an education component. So I'll give you an example. On the flip side, a food pantry program that was providing emergency food, while that work is very important, that would not be eligible for this award because it does not have an education component. If that food bank were doing a nutrition education at the food bank with kids, then you're looking at that marrying of access and education that would be eligible. Did I cover the things on that hit list, Emily?
I think so. And I'm clearing this out, but if it's not quite enough and you're looking for a little more detail, by all means, please don't hesitate to let us know. And I'll take this moment just to note, the teams that you see represented here, we want to be inclusive and be equitable. That does mean we're not necessarily going to be able to respond to every single question about your specific application, like through email after this webinar. So please note, we're not trying to ignore or not be responsive, but we are not giving out individual feedback on applications. So these broad questions: does access work? Does food waste? What about farmers markets? Those are great questions. Keep them coming. Okay, I'm going to tee up Jackie in just a moment on a question about age and family range. So I'll give you a second there to get ready. I'm just going to tackle a couple of the questions. There's some great ones about, is there any benefit or are we eligible if we team up with another nonprofit or a tribe or a school and we unify our application together? There is no sort of weighting. There's no like bonus points or anything like that that will be explicitly awarded for that, just to be crystal clear. That being said, you will see in the rubric that Christina discussed earlier, and it is on the webpage laid out, there are elements of how our community involved. Where is the power in decision making? There are elements like that that you could weave through with the combination and the partnership, that you're merging resources, power, and you're amplifying the work to achieve XYZ that you couldn't do alone, or maybe you're going to do differently together. So I just want to encourage, we're all for that. It's just, you're not going to see in the rubric like an explicit value for partnership in that way that's being described in the question. But we do encourage it. We think it will make for a potentially sustainable solution and strengthen proposals. Okay. All right. So Jackie, if you don't mind, there is a great question in here. Oh, shoot. Here we go. There is a great question about the sort of framing around this benefiting children under 18. But what about families? What about they play into an application? Will they be eligible? Could you tap?
Sure. When we went through the 2024 Food Justice for Kids Prize, we did see a number of applications that came through that included programs that served, children under the age of 18, but also had programming relating to families. So we understand that there are many projects out there that are advancing food justice. And they take like a broad view of what that could mean, which will include families, right? And so families, even young adults, in some cases, people in their programs and projects serve between 18 and 24. So we welcome the projects that have a blend of families involved, young adults, just as long as the majority and primary beneficiary of the grant funding is for under the age of 18. So when you're creating your application, and that may sound like your organization, just keep that in mind when you are building out your SMARTIE goals, but also building out your budget. Because as the evaluation reviewers look through your application, that's one of the components they'll look for, that you are primarily, that your project is primarily benefiting children under the age of 18.
Thanks, Jackie. So Rachel, I'm going to come to you in just a second on a question about nominations. But Josh, I wanted to tee you up before I go to Rachel. There's a question that came in around promoting or advancing policy work for tribal governments. So I'm turning to you more as, do you have an example of maybe something that would fit this category where you've seen a nonprofit or other group work to advance policy within tribal governments? On a logistical and technical level, please note that is 100% eligible as a theme or a topic for your application and would be considered. So Josh, I'm going to give you a second. I'm going to let Rachel answer that and then I'll come back to you for maybe an example of what might that look like. Okay. Rachel, do you mind answering the question about, do nominations get priority or any sort of preference in the application process?
Sure. Yeah, the nomination process is essentially an opportunity for the community to notify or alert an organization to this funding opportunity. But those organizations that are nominated won't get any preferential treatment or review. They won't go through the same review process that all organizations that apply go through. Just a reminder, a nomination is not a requirement to apply. Anybody can find the funding opportunity on the Just Fund platform and submit an application, any eligible organization. So.
Great. Thanks, Rachel. Josh, do you have an example or some concept in mind that you want to share?
Absolutely. I think that one of the things that comes to mind is there have been community gardens that have been in partnerships with schools, and then when they tried the garden produce moved into the schools, there's been some pushback because of USDA funding and conflicts that it can create. And so the school does not want to lose USDA funding by bringing in a non-approved, food source. So really trying to find that sweet spot. And I think it's a great policy discussion of where that food can be grown by, students from the school and then shared amongst the school without it being, held against them or them jeopardizing any sort of school funding for food programming from the government. So I think that that's a real innovative and an initiative that could be a lot more widespread and effective if it ever could get some legs to it.
That's great. Thanks, Josh. Christina, can I come back to you? Can I
Of
take you?
course.
I'm seeing some, like, for example, one on preschool nutrition work, which I think is an interesting question. And feel free if there's one or two others you want to tackle on nutrition ed and school food, but could you start with preschool?
Absolutely. As long as it is under the age of 18, that work is eligible. And, we talk about school food. Maybe we can add a parentheses pre in front. Preschool food, certainly part of that. We do have grantee partners that are working in that ECE space. So that is certainly eligible. Another relevant caveat that other folks might have, there's not a preferred age range within this. So there's not ECE is preferred, high schoolers are preferred. You'll see a common theme through how we answer these questions, which is we welcome a variety of strategies, geographies, all those things. We're interested in the quality of the idea and the ability to move the needle around food justice for kids who face adversity, and your priority program area. So all that to say, those are certainly eligible, whether you're working in a preschool setting, school setting. I saw another question about, can education be related to school food professionals? Absolutely. That is an area that we know is really important. Again, to advance food justice for kids, we got to educate school food professionals. So those certainly eligible as well.
Thanks, Christina. Jackie, I think this one probably makes the most sense for you. There's one about like the size of reach and might smaller communities maybe not be as competitive as ones that reach larger communities. Could you speak to that?
No, we look at all different sizes of organizations for this grant opportunity. So there is not a limit to how large your organization is or how small it is. The projects, as long as, again, they relate to food justice for kids under the age of 18, they are all considered equally in the evaluation process. So size is not a challenge for an organization.
All right, that's great. I do want to pause. I'm going to go jump back to Christina on some other nutrition at school food pieces that I see pop up. But I do want to just make sure to carve out space. Nicolene and Andy, in a moment after Christina's answered, if you have some thoughts or some nuance that you want to call out, please, I'll make some space for that as well through the questions that you might see, but no pressure either way. Christina, if I could turn back to you in a moment. I'm seeing some interesting ones about overlap. So what if a proposal or idea involves both nutrition ed and school food and Indigenous food justice? How might we reconcile that, and how might an applicant think about that?
Yes, love to see applications that are in that intersection, and we do realize there is a Venn diagram there. They're similar to what I talked about with nutrition education and school food. There's not a specific preference. If you are in that Venn diagram, it won't be a higher priority, but we certainly welcome those applications. What I would say about whether you select the Indigenous food justice or the nutrition education and school food is really up to you and where you think your project best fits. And if you're not sure and you're really like, I don't know, I'm doing something native farm to school, it could be either. Pick whichever one you want. Know that we will give you the benefit of the doubt if we see an application that we think would be more competitive than the one they self-selected. We will give you the benefit of the doubt and put you in a pool that we think is most aligned. So, appreciate those questions and recognize and certainly value the important work that's happening in native school food work.
That's great. Thanks, Christina. And I just want to pause for a second. Nicolene and Andy, is there anything that you would like to add or any feedback that you'd like to give directly to potential applicants?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'll just say that it's really exciting to be part of this pooled effort this year. And I think that there's some really interesting and intriguing and thoughtful questions that make it even more exciting. And I guess I would just say from our perspective, that is us being the Hunger to Health Collaboratory, our interest is in policy work. And I think one thing that we haven't had a chance to touch on in this call yet, at least that I have not heard, is our interest in impact and impact that has evidence of impact as part of the application. So we're not looking for projects that are still just I see Jackie nodding, in the very early ideation phase, but rather projects that, have some legs. So I just wanted to add that, I think. And the only other point I would add is that, and I think, Emily, you already touched on this, but again, H2HC is very interested in policy work that has state and national, evidence of impact. But again, we're just excited to be part of this and really looking forward to a great process. Thank you.
Emily, thank you for the opportunity to perhaps expand a little bit. And I know that this is not a strict part of the rubric or criteria or focus of the Food Justice for Kids Prize, but I want to underscore an element or a dimension of the work that we've been involved in New England for now more than 15 years, which is really trying to create the relationship between the growers, the processors, the distributors, the students, and the schools and their institutions in their communities, and indeed the entire the farm to school supply chain. And in the K through 12 space in New England, there are more than 2 million students consuming billions of dollars of food, and the school food service professionals and the buyers have enormous clout in where they direct that spending power. And we're encouraging them through a variety of means to direct it locally and regionally to the sources within the 6 New England states. And so when you think about the power of food to change students' lives, to change kids' lives, to change communities, we're really also interested in how it can change the farm economy in the region. It's a game changer, and we've seen enormous positive impacts when school food professionals engage students and their families and their local farmers and growers and processors and they all become part of a much bigger community, which is the food system. So this is a great opportunity to advance that. But although it is not, I know, part of the official or specific rubric.
That's great. Thank you, Andy. I'm going to tee up, following in the footsteps of Nicolene and Andy, I'm going to tee up the Newman Zone Foundation team. And Josh, I'll throw you in there if you want to. We're going to go do a little round robin and try to go through and pick in the remaining 3 minutes. We have a quick question we think we can tackle that isn't available on the FAQ. So we'll get as many as possible. I'll start. I just want to knock out some clarity on the preschool question. So yeah, it does need to, on the FAQs, you'll see what is eligible, what is not. So it does need to be a 501c3 or equivalent, IRS equivalent. So if it is a privately owned private school, that would not apply. And then lastly, there's a question from Alice here on the two strong ideas. Is it better to do general operating or project funding? Really, truly, it is not something that we factor in explicitly. So it really is on the merits of how you are using the dollars to support the idea against the 5-point rubric that you see there. So please know there really is no preference either way on operating or project funding. All right. Christina, why don't I start with you, then go to Jackie and Rachel, and Josh, if you want, I'll squeeze you in there at the end, but quick round robin, last question.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there were several questions around what constitutes nutrition education and what that definition. I think we talked a little earlier around whether about it could be nutrition education in or out of school or something that focused on school food access. Nutrition education, there's a lot of different dimensionalities there. So we'd refer you to our website, but it is not limited to one type, for example, gardening or food preparation. It can be any of those as long as it is moving towards food education and knowledge growing that next generation of food citizens, it's eligible.
All right, Jackie, over to you.
Sure. I see one more question in the Q&A box. Can this prize be used to pay school districts directly in order to offset permanent positions? So yes, school districts, if they have a garden program or a program related to nutrition education, that relates to those under the age of 18, if it is, within a school district, the budget can cover the offset of those salaries for the individual that is managing the program for the school, right? So it has to be that direct correlation to nutrition education and as it relates to school food.
Great, Jackie, thanks. I think underlined there is flexible funding, but it needs to be aligned with the proposal. It needs to be aligned with the program that was approved on the Food Justice for Kids Prize side. Rachel, any final words? We cleared the board.
I know. I think we're set. Yeah, just reiterating, start early.
And
Yes.
how about as we get the survey launched just to see how we did here today? Josh, any final thoughts you want to share as an actual honored Food Justice for Kids Prize recipient?
I would echo this sentiment. Start early, bring your ideas, and give it a try. I think that's a thing I've enjoyed about working with Newman Zone Foundation, and I'd share it with everybody else. Is you got to go for it. And this has been a great group to work with every step of the way, and so you couldn't have a better partner in this space. So go for it. You never know what could happen. And it's could lead to great things. So don't be afraid, put it together and just get it done.
Thanks so much, Josh. I appreciate that. And this is where we come to a close. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Christina has launched a session poll, and we really want to understand the information. If the information we have shared today is enough, we will have another session on March 25th, and the answers that you provide will help inform us for that session. And please share with any of your networks that we will be having another information session, or those that might not have been able to make it to this session, and also continue to share the Food Justice for Kids opportunity with those in your network. And as I stated earlier in the webinar, the recording as well as the PowerPoint will be available next week on our website. So we again appreciate you all for taking the time to attend, and we hope you apply by that April 28th deadline. Thanks, everyone.